Chief Kemper, who's in charge of Brooklyn North Detectives, Chief McAvoy, the XO of Brooklyn North, Chief Diadamo, who is the commanding officer of our Strategic Response Group, and Deputy Inspector John Buttercavoli, the commanding officer of the 77th Precinct. Earlier this evening, at approximately 7 p.m., members on patrol of the 77th Precinct here in Crown Heights responded to a job of a person shot right here on Schenectady Avenue between St. John's Place and Lincoln Place. As you see, this is an area where there's buildings, residential buildings, as well as our commercial stores right here and our firehouse right here. When officers responded here, they did find an 11-year-old male who was laying in the street suffering from a gunshot wound. We believe he was shot somewhere in the torso, shoulder area. Medical professionals are still evaluating his injury at this time. EMS responded and they removed him to Kings County Hospital. We later discovered that there was a 31-year-old male who was also on the street who was shot once in the left leg. He was removed to Kings County Hospital as well by private means. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Kemper, who's going to give the details of this investigation.
Hey, good evening. So, like Chief Madry mentioned, today at about 7 o'clock p.m., there were multiple calls for shots fired on Schenectady Avenue between St. John's and Lincoln. Patrol officers responded, and they confirmed that there was an 11-year-old male shot one time on the scene. Detectives from the 7-7 squad and the Brooklyn North Homicide Squad were requested and responded to the scene. Here's what we know happened, and here's what we know right now. Again, this is very preliminary, it's subject to change, but this is what we know as of right now. Our 11-year-old male victim and our 31-year-old male victim were both standing on the sidewalk in and around the vicinity of that supermarket, the small supermarket over there, on Schenectady between Lincoln and St. John's. As they were standing on the sidewalk, the shooter, or our perp, walked up and in the vicinity of the supermarket displayed a firearm and shot multiple rounds southbound on Kingston toward an intended target which wasn't hit. The intended target was not hit. Unfortunately, two unintended targets, we believe they were hit, that being our 11-year-old victim and our 31-year-old victim. The 11-year-old victim was shot one time, like the chief said, on his right side upper chest, in between his upper chest and shoulder area. He was removed via EMS to Kings County Hospital. He was in surgery. I'm being told he's out of surgery right now, and fortunately his condition has improved to stable, and he is not likely to die. He's expected to survive. That's the good news. Our 31-year-old victim was shot one time to his knee. He removed himself by private means to Kings County Hospital, where he's currently at, and he's being treated right now. His injuries, too, are not life-threatening. There's ballistic evidence here that we have recovered. Crime scene is processing the scene. You can see it's very active. We have a lot of detectives out. Significant progress has been made. As I stand here right now, we have a person of interest in our custody who we're speaking to that very well might be the individual responsible for this shooting. That's what we have right now.
Do you know who the intended target was and perhaps maybe what this was about?
As far as who the intended target was, the answer to that is yes. We're not going to release his information or his pedigree. As far as motive, right now the motive is unknown. That's something we're trying to determine as we speak. In other words, why did this person open fire on the street? We don't know what the true motive is right now.
Do you have a sense of how far from the victim the gunman was? Was there some considerable distance or was that close range?
Yeah, it was probably all, I'd say within 50 feet, to put it simple. If you look at the food market, we believe, or we know through physical evidence, ballistic evidence, that's where the shots were fired. Our 11-year-old victim was closer to the corner on Kingston Avenue, on the same street, on Schenectady, and the 31-year-old was in between. So it was all in between the food market and that red light right there.
So would you say they were hit by stray bullets? Is that how you would characterize this?
I would categorize it as they were shots fired at an intended target, The intended target was not struck. 2 other individuals were struck who were not the intended targets, one being our 31-year-old victim and one being our 11-year-old victim.
Do you know where the intended target was? Can you point to where that intended target was on the street?
The intended target, we believe, was closer to the corner, in closer proximity to where the 11-year-old was.
Was the shooter driving or walking?
The shooter was walking.
Chief Madry,
Yes.
this is your borough.
Yes, Josh.
This is a vibrant block, lots of people, broad daylight. We just talked to a guy in Washington State who moved here 2 years ago to take out the trash and saw this happen. What should people who live on this block and in the borough, what message should they take from this happen?
I mean, listen, this is something that happened pretty much in broad daylight. All right, our summer's here, and we talk about public safety. We talk about safe spaces, especially for our youth. This is the time more than ever for our communities to partner with our police department, and we know that we already do that, but we have to step it up even more because we can't let incidents like this go unchecked, and we can't let shooters believe that they can do this with impunity. We have to be out here working together. If our neighbors or our community people see anything, they should be on the phone with us right away, or they should be reaching out to the neighborhood coordination officers or to the commanding officers of the various precincts. Now more than ever, I implore my community here, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy, Fort Greene, whichever one. We need to work together and we need to keep our communities safe.
Let me just, if I could just add to that, we've had tremendous cooperation with the community, and we consider the community great partners in ours. Speaking specifically about this incident, I want to say a couple of things about the cooperation and working relationship with the community. I could say with certainty and fact that we already have received multiple phone calls and had multiple conversations with community members who are outraged about what happened here and are more than willing to work with us, and some of them being witnesses or some of them that heard information. That's number two. That's number one. Number two, I urge anyone in the community, if anyone has any information, no matter how insignificant you may think it is, please call our Crime Stoppers hotline at 1-800-577-TIPS. That's 1-800-577-TIPS. Any information you might have seen or heard, and I just want to assure any of the callers, you can, if you want, remain anonymous, and any information you give us will be fully vetted, and it's certainly appreciated.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.